Hey guys, how's it going? This is Fern again with Guitar Geekery. Well, I've had this idea for this video for quite a while now. I think it's something that I think needs to be talked about. Given my line of work and given what I've done professionally for the last 10 or 15 years, this is a subject that I'm actually surprised I haven't talked about yet, but I think really needs to be out there. And the topic that I think I would love to share with everybody, especially those that are just now starting off playing guitar, or maybe you're the parent of a student who's just now starting off playing guitar. You guys are out there, you guys are doing the search for a good guitar, something for your student to play on, or maybe you're the one that's starting to play guitar. You're out there looking for something to start with, right? So this is going to be the first of probably 3 or 4 videos regarding beginner guitars, beginner instruments. Now, I'm going to talk about several different aspects of beginner instruments, beginner guitars, but today I want to focus on the absolute basics of looking for a beginner guitar, and that is price and quality. There's other things, other factors that go into choosing a good beginner guitar. Things like guitar type, guitar style. Those are going to be something that I'm going to talk about in a completely separate video. They're just as important. We also have things like, what are you going to be doing long term? That is, again, something that I will address in a different video. But right now, I want to focus on the one thing that seems to be the number one driving factor with anybody choosing a brand new guitar for themselves or for a student in their life. And that is cost versus value. I'm going to be very blunt about this, and yeah, it may offend some of you, but I think it really needs to be said. And honestly, if you're one of these people that falls into this category, I'm not saying this to belittle you or to be condescending. I'm genuinely trying to educate you so that you make the best decision for yourself or for whoever it is that you're buying that guitar for. But in the world of guitar, it really is very much a matter of what you pay is what you get. Now, I know that the temptation is very, very strong, especially nowadays with the way the economy is and the way inflation is going and the recession and all of those factors coming into play. It is very tempting to go out and buy the absolute cheapest guitar you can find. There's nothing wrong with trying to save money, absolutely not, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. But it seems to me like the underlying factor for these decisions, and sometimes it's the only factor that's being considered, is how cheap can I get it and what's the cheapest I can get. I'm going to tell you right now that is the absolute worst way to find a decent beginner guitar. There are some brands out there, and I will name names, unfortunately, because I really do think it's important for a lot of you guys out there that are choosing these things to avoid certain pitfalls, all right? In the industry, we have something called the Noob Tax, right? Everybody knows what a noob is. Somebody, somebody who's a little green, a little fresh, um, amateur, if you will. We have the Noob Tax, and what the Noob Tax is, when you're brand new at something, trying to find something to start off with, right? So you naturally gravitate to buying the absolute cheapest thing you can buy, no matter what it is. It could be any hobby, it could be with whatever. If you're into gaming and computers, you start off getting the cheapest gaming system you can buy with the cheapest graphics card, etc., etc. If you're into photography, maybe you buy the cheapest camera you can find with the cheapest lenses, etc. Same thing if you play guitar, you're often going to gravitate towards buying the cheapest guitar you can find. Well, that's all fine and good, but unfortunately, there are some brands out there, especially those that are internet specific. You all know which ones they are. Anything on Amazon, anything on Wish, anything on Alibaba, any of those. You have brands like Rogue, First Act. There's a couple others that I can't think of right now, but you'll see them. I mean, you'll know what it is. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're spending anything less than $200 on any guitar, you're automatically buying, well, there's really no way of saying this nicely. You're kind of buying crap. That is especially more true with acoustic instruments, things like classical guitars and steel string acoustics, right? Anything that is a box type body that's a full hollow. Now, the reason for that is there is totally a craft and an art of making these instruments. And also these hollow body, like these acoustics and these classicals, they're also the cheapest instruments to make, and they're also the easiest ones to cut corners with. Meaning, it's very easy to get away with shoddy workmanship and shoddy building design construction processes with these guitars than it is with something like an electric guitar, for example. An electric guitar has a lot less. Well, how can I say this? Outside of the electronics, when we're talking about the body work, the actual body of the guitar, the wood pieces, there's really kind of a lot more leeway with the tolerances that you have in using these in building these guitars rather. In a nutshell, and I'm being very broad here, an electric guitar is going to be a slab of wood with a neck and some frets and some strings and some electronics to make a sound. Really, the one thing that you need to get right in an electric is the neck. As long as you make that properly, everything else can be kind of whatever it is. That's why you see all of these electric guitars with all these weird shapes out there, and you'll see them out there because it really doesn't matter outside of the neck. Now, with an acoustic guitar, like an acoustic steel string or a classical or Spanish guitar, if that's how you know it, every piece of that instrument matters. Everything from the quality of the top of the guitar, which is the face, the part that faces out away from you, the front of the guitar, if you will, that's called the top. The top of the guitar matters incredibly so in the materials that you choose, how well you build it, how well you cut it, how flat it's planed out. There's a lot of really tight tolerances that need to go into these things. Same thing with the back and the sides. The quality of the materials also has a lot to do with it. Now, there's a lot of room within that construction method to cut a lot of corners. So you can end up getting a guitar that looks like it's reasonably well made, but is absolute turd. Unfortunately, these are the guitars that are sold out there under the Esteban name, Rogue, First Act. You'll get a couple others like Glary. Anything Alibaba and anything on Wish is going to be one of these guitars. Honestly, if it's under $200, I would run away from it. If you find anything for under $100, I would run far away from those guitars. Now, ideally, you'd want to be spending upwards of $200 and make sure that you get an instrument that is a recognized brand. And by recognized brand, I mean something that you can look up online and find decent reviews for, something that's got a history of existing that you know is going to have a reputation. There's always going to be good reviews, there's always going to be bad reviews for these instruments, but you want to make sure that there are a lot of reviews. Granted, even with the bad reviews, you do want to get a brand of instrument that the good reviews are going to outweigh the bad reviews. Some brands that I would say fall into those categories are things like Squier, which is Fender's overseas division. Things like Epiphone, which is Gibson's overseas division. You could find some of those instruments in the realm of $200 to $300 at the entry level prices, and they're still very decent instruments for a beginner. The other thing is you can look at some other brands and find them in the $300, $400, $500 range, and they're going to be absolutely great instruments. Right? The point is, you do want to invest a little bit of money going into a beginner guitar, even if you're just beginning. The trap that I want everybody to avoid is I'm going to get this for now. And when I get better, or if you're buying it for a student, well, we're going to get this for him for now. And when he gets better, then we'll upgrade. Wrong. That is the number one reason students quit. Now, in my 20 plus years of teaching and in my research as an actual music major and band director for a number of years, that is what I found out in my own research and my own experience is that the number one reason students quit their instrument, the number one reason students lose their interest, it's not because of any other factor other than their instrument is not up to par with what they need it to do. And bluntly speaking, that means they have a cheap instrument that doesn't play in tune well, doesn't have a good sound, it's uncomfortable to play, it takes extra maintenance above and beyond what you would normally do to keep that instrument up and running, and it's just overall not a positive experience for that student. So, those of you out there, whether you're buying it for yourself or you're buying it for somebody else, if your first thought is, well, I'm going to get this for now, and once another one is needed, then I'll upgrade, you're already dooming yourself to failure. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point. Now, I mentioned earlier the Noob Tax. That's what I'm talking about. You're spending money needlessly on an instrument right now that you don't need to be spending money on. Why not just get the next level up that's going to be better for you or better for your student and ensure that that instrument is going to be playable and actually enjoyable to play? You would have already wasted that extra money because you're going to be upgrading that anyway at some point, right? Save yourself the money and just go right into a decent quality instrument, right? Now, the other thing is, when you're buying an instrument, that's again going back to the mindset of, well, I'm going to get this for now. Like I said before, that really is the worst kind of mindset you can have. The for now mindset doesn't work, because what that's doing is that's cornering you into an instrument that you're not going to grow into, you're going to grow out of. You're going to outgrow that instrument really, really soon. You or your student, whoever you're getting that guitar for, is going to outgrow that instrument really fast. The key is, do not buy an instrument that you're going to outgrow or that somebody's going to outgrow. You want to buy an instrument that you're going to grow into, right? There's a huge difference. And that difference is going to mean the difference between somebody quitting because it's frustrating or somebody becoming really successful at it because it's actually enjoyable for them. Buying a guitar, especially a brand new guitar, should never be about what is the cheapest option I can get? What is the easiest way into this that I can find? Right? Just like with anything else, it's going to be a lifelong pursuit. You want to start with something of quality. Get yourself an instrument that you're going to grow into and not outgrow. Get yourself an instrument, or for somebody else, if you're buying it, buy an instrument that is going to be enjoyable to play, it's going to be comfortable to play, it's going to stay in tune, sound good, have relatively easy maintenance, and not be something that you're going to have to be tweaking and maintaining and just fidgeting with all the time just to get it to play right. Get yourself something that's good quality. Spend the money up front and just get something that's decent to play on, right? Avoid at all costs the absolute cheapest things you can find. I know it's very tempting to do, but listen, hey, I know money's tight these days. There's a lot of stuff going on with the economy right now. People aren't affording the same things that we used to afford before. I totally get that. Trust me, I get it. But listen, I know for a fact that 98% of Americans out there still have the means to live very comfortably in relation to everybody else, right? Nowadays, we are still living in relative comfort. We're still living in relative plenty. The economy, yes, it sucks. Yes, it's bad. But you guys can still make an effort to get something that's decent, something that's still affordable, but of good quality if you're going to pursue this with any kind of seriousness at all. More so if you're going to do this for a student. I think it's very unfair for you to railroad that student into playing on something that you chose simply based on economics. Okay, that is very, very unfair. And I don't think that is, honestly, I don't think that's appropriate for the student. If you're going to put them in, for example, boxing or football or whatever it is, something that's highly physical, a highly demanding sport or activity, you're going to get them the best equipment there is. Are you not? You're going to get them the best safety equipment, him or her. You're going to get them the best safety equipment, the best pads, helmet, whatever it is, just so that they can do their activity or sport, have fun, but be safe about it, right? Just like if your student is learning to drive, you're going to want them to learn to drive on a car that's at least halfway decent and not a jalopy that's going to fall apart on them the first time they pull it out of the driveway. The same way that all of these other activities in life require you to put a little bit of investment into the equipment that you're going to be using, I would recommend you do the same thing with beginner guitars, right? Do not fall into the trap of buying the cheapest thing you can buy just because it's available, all right? Do yourself a favor, do your student a favor if it's for a student, and get something that's decent. If you really want me to recommend specific instrument models, specific makes, brands, whatever, feel free to DM me here on the channel or just leave a comment down below. I'll be glad to answer them there in the comments. But there's a lot of brands out there that are very, very good for not that much money. Just like there are a lot of brands that might be a couple dollars cheaper and that are worlds different from anything name brand that you're going to get. Don't spend $150 on a guitar. Spend the $200, and that $50 difference is going to be a 10 times better instrument. Trust me, I've seen it. Just to summarize this whole thing, if you're buying a guitar for yourself, a beginner guitar, yourself for a student that you're gifting it to or giving it to, whatever, the takeaway for all this is, number one, please avoid getting the cheapest thing you can find. Just trust me, do yourself or your student a favor and avoid the cheapest things you can find. Number two, get something that has more positive reviews than negative online, something that you can actually research and have a history for that is well known. Number three, get an instrument that you're going to grow into, not outgrow relatively soon, right? There's nothing wrong with buying yourself a forever instrument as your first instrument. Heck, I still do that. Some of these guitars behind me, I started off as, hey, this is a nice little intermediate level guitar that I'm going to play, but here I am many years later still playing the same guitars because they were quality guitars to begin with, right? Not that much money either. So get yourself an instrument that you're going to grow into, not grow out of. Avoid the noob tax, you know? So those are my takeaways for this video. Something nice and short today, just something I want you guys all to consider. Again, please think about this whenever you're purchasing a beginner guitar for yourself or for somebody that you know, and don't fall into the trap of the beginner guitar trash, right? Like I said before, in my research and my experience as a teacher, both public and private, the single biggest reason that students quit their instrument is that their instrument isn't up to standards for what they needed to do. So again, next video I'll cover things like the different types of guitars that you want to avoid as an absolute beginner, and maybe what you should look for instead. I'll get into why there's one type of guitar that I totally despise for beginners, but again, that'll be down the road in a couple more videos from now. So stay tuned, keep watching. These videos should be up in the next couple of weeks. And then as always, leave a comment if you have any questions or want to know anything further. But that's it for now, guys. Pretty short and sweet. Talk to you guys next time, and stay geeky. Bye.